directors might work nicely together, and what can we discern about that to inform our investments? That's starting to emerge more, and I think, like I said, Netflix is probably the most aggressive and successful in that. Film studios are actually not staffed in the same way that an SVOD company is staffed. So one of the advantages that Netflix or an Amazon might have is they've got this sort of heritage of data analytics and being data-driven as a business, whereas film studios aren't. They have a couple people in research, but they're not data junkies in the same way. But on the TV side, you see much more of a hybrid of that, I guess, people who are content, but also has spent more time digging into data and looking at analysis and long-term trends and tying into cultural things. And so from a TV studio standpoint, I think they're sort of looking at what shows are working and how is that evolving over the course of multiple seasons and making assessments based on that. And it's like, I've worked with both and they're night and day different to work.
Okay.
One thing we do kind of, like at Hulu is we look at the taste preferences and then at the macro level, what resonates better. And this taste preference is not necessarily a comedy or a drama because those are too generic. Yeah. But it is more like, it is more deeper and depending on even based on the show type, the depthness may change as well. So we actually see that there are certain things that resonates very well with users. And we use this kind of, like the similarities to, project for the future. But one nice thing about us, like we were able to experiment with many different things as well. And even, like taking it from the launch of the things, like how should we launch, what is the optimal way so that, like people have the best chance to enjoy the shows. And also, like kind of even order of the things, the design of the things. In SVOD especially, it is easier to experiment and which we highly use, like we kind of utilize that extensively. But I agree with the movies, probably it is harder for studios.
All right, we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left, and I had 3 hands up here in the back that have been up for a while, so we're going to start all the way in the back.
You talked about the importance of the data in the context. How easy is it to isolate a correlation with, say, a spike in streams with a specific element of the content, not just the genre, or specific element of the demographic that's responding to it?
So that is actually causal versus correlation in a way, right? We actually utilize lots of econometrics to be able to isolate the causal part of it. The causal relations, the ideal way is testing. Like there is no other way to do that. But actually we mimic by controlling many factors. And then we have lots of causal models actually running for different events. And then this way basically we were able to isolate. Because if something is happening because like the weather is bad, which is good to know still, like we utilize even that information. But still, we want to understand, if we are looking at it from the show perspective, we want to just understand the impact of that show, nothing else. Then maybe also we want to understand the impact of the weather as well, but those are different things. And we want to be able to decouple them. For that, like there are some sophisticated econometrics models that goes into that.
Okay, we had 2 more back here, I think. Other questions? We have 2 more over here? No?
Speaking about social media and TV, how do you utilize the social media data that you have and build a correlation to ratings?
It's interesting. So sometimes they correlate, a lot of times it correlates very heavily with ratings, and you can just literally look at them and you can see them track together. Sometimes it doesn't. I went to a conference recently where an academic who looks at social media was speaking, and his quote was 7% of conversations happen online. That means 93% do not. So sometimes they don't, and it depends on the show, right? If it's a show that's targeting a demographic that's all over Twitter and Facebook, yeah, you're going to get a pretty good correlation. If it's a show that skews a little bit older, which is pretty much every broadcast show, you might not see a correlation there at all. And it also depends on the category. People talk a lot about sports, for example, online. They tweet about it in real time. But there are certain types of shows that just don't really lend themselves necessarily to going viral or don't have that character. They're interesting, and they get like a good example of that, I think, would be a procedural crime drama, right? You're not going to necessarily see a ton of social data on that, but they get high ratings because you don't have to commit to it, and you can just bounce in and bounce out, and they make a lot of money and they're cash cows, right? But you're not going to see is the kind of social data correlation there that you might on even a show like Love and Hip Hop, where people are talking about what happened and what's juicy, and it's kind of like Die Hard fan following, right? Or any kind of competition where there was a result and people are going to, or a sporting event, or, you know, so that's going to be a lot more viral, and it's going to be online viral. So it really actually depends on the show, like not even the genre, but like literally the show. It sort of depends on that. So it's hard to tease out.
Okay, I don't know if we have any more time, because I think we're out, we're past our time now. So I want to thank the panelists. We didn't really get to my question about what happens when you have a whole cohort of folks binge watching the Powerpuff Girls, but we can get to that in this panel. Thank you guys so much. We'll be around, so if you have other questions,